Hello, my beautiful friends. I am Laurel, Bleadon-Maffei with Illuminating Souls, welcoming you to this episode of Sleepy Bedtime Blessings, a podcast designed to help you rest, relax, and fall asleep, all while deepening in your connection with your beautiful team of angels who love you so. If we're meeting for the first time, I am an angelic practitioner, a spiritual teacher, and an encourager of souls. And I offer one-on-one angel sessions, soul mentoring, and a variety of classes designed to inspire your spirit. And you can learn more at my website, illuminatingsouls.com, where you can also sign up for my mailing list. So when you get to my homepage, there are actually 2 different mailing lists you can sign up for. The first one at the top is my general mailing list, and this will keep you apprised of all of my classes and offerings and messages. And then further down is the daily inspiration email blast, where you will receive an inspiring email from me every weekday. So in the top list, the emails from me will be less frequent. In the list down below, you'll hear from me every weekday. So totally up to you how often you'd like to hear from me. But for now, my beautiful friends, the angels and I are here to cultivate a sweet, sacred, loving, soothing space where you can rest and replenish. So I invite you to just take a nice deep breath in and release as we gently call ourselves forward into the heart of God. It's early morning as I record this. It is my preferred time to record these episodes because the world is still quiet. But for those of you who are regular listeners, you might have noticed that I have offered up several replays in a row. And I had every intention of recording new material for you, but I've been dawdling a lot. Isn't that a great word, dawdle? I've been dawdling a lot in the early morning. I guess I've just needed more space to putter around and not be terribly focused. Because it's not as if I've been super busy with things at 6 a.m., but I've just been wandering through the internet, my phone, my thoughts. And so I thought, I'll just post another replay. It's all good. But today, I thought, I'm going to sit down and record this for you. And I really could have started recording this about 45 minutes ago. But you know what I did? I dawdled. And I puttered. And I went through the rabbit hole that is Google and looked up stuff. How cool is it that we can look stuff up? And so now it's a little bit later. And I thought, oh, maybe I won't record today. And I thought, no, I really, really want to be here with you. So here I am. And it's early morning still. The sun is just starting to come up. I think it's going to be a really beautiful day here in Northern California. Oh, a beautiful winter's day, which is typically very mild. And you don't need to wear a coat, which I thought was a miracle growing up in Chicago as a child, that there were places where you did not have to wear a coat in the winter. So adult me is going to enjoy not wearing a coat today, December 2023. So usually this first segment of the podcast, I wax poetic about something spiritually related, and then I call the angels in, and then that brings us to story time. And I have 2 different options for story time. I don't know which one I will opt into, but we'll discover that together in about 15 minutes. But for now, I really just want to bring you a lot of love. There's been so much happening in the world, in life. And I don't know about you, but I have required quite a bit of spaciousness. And I am someone who requires a lot of spaciousness to begin with. So to require even more spaciousness has been interesting. But on the bright side, at least for me, there's inspiration flowing. New classes have started. Wonderful people are coming into my circles, and I just love the opportunity to get to be in the light with you. You know, there's the old adage that I'm going to repurpose that says wherever 2 or more are gathered in God's name or in the name of the divine, miracles happen and healing happens, because our light swirls together and amplifies. It magnetizes and magnifies the light and the love that is present, which is one of the intentions behind this podcast, that even if you are on your own listening, even if I recorded this episode years earlier, we are still together. We are keeping each other company. And that is such a blessing. So in this moment, I want you to know that I am grateful for you. And I am grateful that the promise of you is keeping me company right now in the early morning as I ramble into this microphone, inviting the angels in to be with us, rippling the love throughout time and space so that it might find you in this moment right now when you are hearing this message. I think that's such a cool concept, that love and light and prayers are not bound by time nor space. I think about all the books that I've read, poetry, the things that I have experienced that were birthed into this world long before I was born, by people who lived a long time ago, and their voice, their presence, their heart continues to ripple and inspire and helps us awaken to all that we are. And so it is my honor, truly, to get to share this moment with you, because you are precious and you are a gift in this world, and your life matters. And I am here right now because of the promise of you. The whisper of the soul says, come to the microphone. Come to the microphone and speak and share. Share your heart, share your words, because in doing so you open to hearing and allowing the space for others to share as well. You know, one of the things that I miss about I was going to say something so profound, like one of the things that I miss so much about life, and perhaps that is really the crux of the matter, is I miss wandering in and out of conversations with people. I work from home, and I get to be with my husband, who is my favorite person on the planet, but I don't socialize a lot these days. for a variety of reasons. Some of it is geographical. Some of it has to do with the pandemic, and a bunch of different things. And that I like my own space. So a bunch of things weave together into this kind of quiet life that I also profoundly love. But I really miss wandering in and out of conversations with people. And this podcast in some ways takes the place of that for me, but the downside is I don't get to hear your stories unless you want to do a podcast, and then I will listen for sure. So thank you for allowing me to join you in this space where we can perhaps wander in and out of some conversations together. Sorry, I just heard a car door slam. The joys of recording in early morning. Yay. Go life. So, speaking of angels, not that I was speaking of them, that was my non sequitur, my clumsy non sequitur. Speaking of angels, they are here. There is so much love flowing through for you. And so I'm going to call the angels in to be here with us, even though they are already here. I love sharing the ritual of them with you. So go ahead and get comfortable in whatever way works best for you. Take some nice deep breaths in and out. And beautiful angels on high, I invite you to join us here, and I ask that you make your presence known in gentle, loving, sweet, kind ways. I ask that you bring your loving essence to each of our beloveds listening to this broadcast. That your love comes streaming in. And angels, I ask that you help to clear the heaviness that does not belong to us, helping to bring healing and love and goodness and joy to each of our beloveds. Angels, help us remember that life is good. I know there's a lot of evidence to the contrary right now, but each of us also has the opportunity, if we are fortunate, to focus on the good. And so in this moment, I affirm that life is good. And I don't know what that means for each one of you, but I hope that there are morsels of goodness that flow to you as we contemplate the goodness of life, the beauty of a sunrise, hearing the birds in the morning, watching a hummingbird flit by in the garden, however goodness presents itself to you on this day. With your permission, I ask the angels to bring it into your awareness so that you can be aware, that you can open your peripheral vision to molecules of goodness as they appear to you today. Actually, this is a sleep podcast, so you might be ready for bed. So let me change that for you. How about if it's asking the angels to help bring into your awareness the goodness that is available to you over the next day or so that you can sleep and not be looking in your peripheral vision for goodness. I'm a little punchy this morning, can you tell? Oh, God bless it. God bless this space for rambling. It's just such sweet energy. So speaking of sleep, wow, I am really bad at the transitions here today. But that's okay, because we love each other, right? It's all good. If you are preparing for sleep, I invite you to cozy on up and snuggle on in. I love listening to sleep podcasts as I drift off to sleep. So, if you are getting ready for sleep, enjoy this cozy, sweet space that the angels are creating for you. I invite you to take a breath and just let go the day that was. Just let it go, whatever your it is, let it go. And the angels will lift it from you. So whether you're awake because it is the middle of your day or drifting off to sleep, we all can use some clearing, yes. And we all have stuff we can let go. So here's to letting go of, that psychic stuff, that stuff that's in our psyche, that stuff that takes up our RAM. Here's to just kind of clearing that which is not necessary. Like a good defrag of the hard drive. There are some wonderful, beautiful healing modalities that help to clear the energy field. And I've been blessed to experience some of them, and it is a remarkable thing to have the energy field rebalanced and cleared of that which we do not need to carry. And so I just invite a very gentle version of that for us in whatever way serves each of our unique, highest and best good. And so I invite you to bring your prayers and intentions forward to share with the angels. And they will meet you with their hearts open. And they will be with you in love. So I invite you to drift off. I invite you to breathe and receive. And while you rest, if resting is your intention, we're going to move on into story time. So for this story time, we actually have not done a TV guide episode in a while, and I know that for some of you, these are your favorite episodes. So I had ordered quite a few of TV guides from this gentleman on eBay. Gotta love eBay, right? You can find anything there. I love eBay. I just bought some yarn from eBay. But this is not a yarn-centric episode, so we will stay on course to talk about TV guide. So this particular TV guide I did not buy because I loved the show on the cover. As a matter of fact, I don't know that I've ever seen the show on the cover. In fact, I would not have watched this show for sure. I would have turned the channel. It is CPO Sharky with Don Rickles and Peter Isaacson. And it's from, I think it's 1977, which is why I purchased it. Let me just double check that date. Okay, yes indeed. This is the July 9th issue from 1977, which I think is why I purchased it, because that'll be a fun time to go back to. So I'll set the stage. And even though you can't see my hands just sort of did a whole panorama widening. As I said that. We'll set the stage. July 1977. And since I am the one narrating this, I will tell you where I was while you contemplate where you were, if you even were born at that point. So in July of 1977, I would be 15 years old. I would not have gotten my own room yet, so I am still sharing a room with my sister because I would not get my own room till I was 16, until my father refurbished our previously enclosed back porch into an actual room for me. So I'm still sharing a room with my sister. So if I'm 15 years old, I'm a sophomore in high school. And wow, that was a clumsy time to be a human being. I did not know where I fit in the world. I had a group of girlfriends who went to a different high school. But at my high school, for the most part, I felt pretty lost. I was a theater kid, which gave me some kind of community, but it was still, I don't know, not necessarily my happiest time of life, I guess I would say, which I think for many of us was our truth. But since this is about television, so we probably have a color television at this point. We may have had some sort of pay cable situation happening, but you would need an external box to get that. I don't remember when that came into our home. We did not have a VCR. I don't think they had been invented for the home yet at that point. I don't know that I was watching soaps at this point either. I don't think I had discovered the wonders of Ryan's Hope, which was my first soap opera that I watched. But let's go into it. Let's get into this TV guide and see what treasures await us. So just back to CPO Sharky. I was not a Don Rickles fan. So respect to Don Rickles. He definitely was an icon of comedy back then, but not my cup of tea. So I don't think I ever would have watched that show. This is a little interesting factoid from this time. So the credit card Bank AmeriCard is changing its name to Visa. So that all happened in 1977. I did not know that. So we all now know Visa cards, but they used to be called Bank AmeriCard. I didn't know that. A little bit of interesting history there for you. So this is the era of shows like Mary Hartman, Fernwood Tonight, and there's an article here that people are really up in arms by what's happening on the sitcom Soap, which is so brilliant. Wes and I just watched the whole thing, I think, a year or two ago again. But it says a big controversy is bubbling up around Soap, the sexy new comedy series on ABC's fall schedule. The U.S. Catholic Conference and the National Council of Churches of Christ are impatient to see the program before responding to its reported flouting of convention. So Saturday morning, at 15 years old, I would be sleeping till at least 11 o'clock for sure on a Saturday. And typically Saturdays, the shows were not terribly good during the daytime. Again, we didn't have 1,000 channels. We didn't have Netflix. We didn't have ways to amuse ourselves other than going to the mall, reading a book, or watching a bad movie. Like, that was pretty much it. But it's July, so we could be outside at that point, which was probably a nice thing. American Bandstand has Bay City Rollers. I know many of us had crushes on them back then, and they're going to be performing Saturday night. You're a Woman, Dance, 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 and You Made Me Believe in Magic. The only one of those songs I remember is Saturday Night. But they were cute boys. So, yay them. As I'm looking through the Saturday afternoon shows, I'm having this sort of visceral memory of how annoyed I was that they only seemed to show sports. Like, who was watching all of the sports? There was a race, like a car race, baseball, Sports Spectacular, the Hollywood Stuntmen's Championship. Like, who cares? Who cares? There was way too much sports on. This was before ESPN. So sports had to share the airwaves with the rest of the programs. And then there's shows I don't care about. A rerun of Mission Impossible. something called Celebrity Sweepstakes with Red Fox, George Hamilton, Dick Clark, Kate Jackson, Dick Martin, and Carol Wayne. That might have been a game show. Wouldn't have cared. Emergency One. I wonder if that's Johnny Gage and Roy DeSoto. So there would have been nothing I wanted to watch, which would have annoyed me back then. It's like, who cares? Show me something I care about, which is now the brilliance of Netflix and Hulu and all the streaming services. Oh my God, 15-year-old me would have thought this was a miracle that I could choose any show I wanted and watch it whenever I wanted to. 15-year-old me would have thought this was a dream come true. You know what is so interesting about living through evolution is it just becomes a thing, right? It's just a thing now. And then we get annoyed when it's not available, like when the Wi-Fi is down. I remember there's a singer that I love, and he would often talk about things before he would sing. And in one of his live albums, he said, it's like, imagine that all of a sudden we could fly. It would be super cool for the first day or so. And then it would just be ordinary, right? It's like the amazingness wears off and it just becomes our new normal. You know what I was thinking about 1977 when I was getting ready to do this episode is, so 15 years old, and if I had to write a paper on something that most homes, again, I grew up in Skokie, Illinois, which was middle class, maybe a little upper middle class, not super wealthy. But every home had either the World Book Encyclopedia or the Encyclopedia Britannica. And there would be a volume for each letter, right? The S was always the biggest one, S and T. And you would look up whatever you needed to learn about in the encyclopedia. So pretty much your whole class had access to the exact same information. Or you would go to the library and go through the card catalog to research whatever it was you were trying to learn about. Versus now, you get on your little phone and you put in a couple characters and the whole world is available to you. So it's just interesting, all these thoughts that start whirling about as I contemplate what 1977 was like. And I'm just now remembering how annoyed I would be on Saturdays or Sundays when there were only sports and old movies and TV shows I did not care about. And I want to say to my 15-year-old self, oh, honey, just wait. You're going to be able to watch anything you want soon. Well, not soon. She's going to have to wait several decades for that, but time is relative, right? One day, in your future, there will be this device you will hold in your hand, and you can watch anything you want whenever you want. It's going to be a miracle. Okay, we'll keep going though. It looks like Candid Camera is on. And this is just a little editorial. I've never liked shows like Candid Camera or Punked. Do you guys remember the Punked show? I'm not really a fan of things that celebrate other people looking foolish. I think also it's one of the reasons I didn't like Don Rickles, because his whole shtick was insulting people. I just think life is hard enough. Life can be cruel enough. We don't have to celebrate watching people getting made fools of or get practical jokes played on them. I'm just not a fan of, intentional, I don't know, but the quote comedy of other people's discomfort. Not my thing, which that would probably not surprise you about me. Okay, but now we are going to go into Saturday night television, which is glorious. We start off with Mary Tyler Moore. Now, remember, this is the summer. This is July, so we're in rerun season. But there's still new shows. So on this episode of Mary Tyler Moore, the Baxters, of course, Ted and... I know his wife was played by Georgia Engel. Was her character Georgia? I don't remember her name. The Baxters are the hosts of a local variety show that becomes a runaway hit. Oh, Georgette. Okay, sorry. I answered my own question here, or TV Guide answered my question, to be clear. But while Ted basks in the limelight, Georgette shrinks from her overnight fame. I don't remember that episode, but I'm sure I've seen it 15 times. Emergency. Now this is the one with Johnny Gage and Roy DeSoto. And I had a crush on Randolph Mantooth, right? I mean, who didn't? He was so cute. Well, while cramming for a formidable recertification exam, Gage, played by Randolph Mantooth, and DeSoto, played by Kevin Tighe, must tend to the needs of a deceased firefighter's widow and young daughter. Ooh, that sounds very heartfelt. Also on is Wonder Woman with Linda Carter, which my husband still enjoys watching. He loves all of those shows. So there's one station that'll show Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman. He loves that whole block. I love that he loves it. My husband is like the cutest guy on the planet. I love him. Okay, Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman's teenage sister, Drusilla, played by Deborah Winger. This must have been way before Officer and a Gentleman, is captured by Nazis determined to learn the secret of the Amazon's bullet-deflecting bracelets. The second of 2 parts. For those of you that watched TV back in this era, do you remember the urgency of something being in 2 parts? You had to tune in the next week because there was no VCR. You couldn't just record it and watch it later. You know, kids today are never going to know about the anticipation of a 2-parter because they just drop a whole season in one moment. But back then, a 2-parter was really an investment of time and consciousness. Okay, wow, that was just 8 o'clock. And we have so many riches already. But wait, there's more. Okay, Bob Newhart. This would be the first Bob Newhart, where he's the psychiatrist or psychologist. Bob invites his all-male therapy group home, as all good therapists do, right? Bob invites his all-male therapy group home for a woman's view of their problems from Emily. He breaks just about every rule of therapists in this episode, but it's comedy. Mr. Carlin. I'm sure it's hysterically funny, and again, I've probably seen it 5 times and just don't remember it. All in the Family. Archie is sweating a visit from a former classmate, played by Estelle Parsons. They once had a brief encounter while he was dating Edith. Uh-oh. Again, I'm sure I've seen it, don't remember it. And then, Starsky and Hutch. Brilliant television. I say facetiously now, of course, but back then I loved Starsky and Hutch, and I had a crush on David Soul. I was 15. Everything was oriented to who had a cute guy in the show. That was really my baseline for how invested I would be in the programming. So Hutch, so this would be a Hutch-centric episode. So good, right? Hutch is captured by a mobster until the detective reveals the whereabouts of the jealous Hood's former girlfriend. And I don't know that I would have watched that. I mean, I watched a lot of Starsky and Hutch back in the day, but I was sharing TV time with my parents, and they would have gone for sure for the All in the Family block. And then we have Alice. So middle-aged Mel, played by Vic Tayback, falls hopelessly in love at first sight with Alice's young visitor, a backpacking nature child who hiked all the way from New Jersey to Phoenix. Well, okay. Feather and Father Gang. I have no idea what that is. Feather and Father Gang. It's with Stephanie Powers and Harold Gould. I remember them being in a series together, but I don't think I ever saw it. And there should be some Saturday Night Live, right? But I don't see it. Was it on yet? Maybe it didn't exist yet. Maybe not. I don't know that Saturday Night Live was a thing yet. Okay, if I come across it, I will tell you. And just, here's a little bit of music stuff. So, Don Kirshner's rock concert has Casey and the Sunshine Band. Shake your booty and get down tonight. And that's the way I like it. Okay, I'm hearing the songs in my head now. That's the way, I like it, Okay, sorry. I couldn't stop it. It just was there. Okay, then there's Sunday morning, which I'm sleeping at this point at 15 years old. Again, Sunday in July, maybe I'm at the mall, I'm out with my girlfriends, but if I had to be home, there's really not much to watch. There are documentaries that I wouldn't have cared about. Sports, didn't care. Bad movies, didn't care. So, nothing good here to watch. Not even things that I think you would think would be good. So, there is, I wouldn't be interested in this, but perhaps some of you might be. The 1960 version of Little Shop of Horrors was on. Wouldn't have wanted to watch it. Yeah, nothing good. Baseball. Who cares? Well, I mean, I know people care. I have watched baseball, but the who cares is coming from 15-year-old me. I wouldn't have cared. But maybe you are a sports person, so I'm not going to deny you knowing what you could watch. So there's 2 different baseball games because you have the National League and the American League, both playing on different channels. Pro soccer. You have a sports special. To the top of the world, an assault on Mount Everest. I don't know. I might have watched that at some point. Something about the Moscow Circus. Acrobatic bears and trained tigers are among the featured attractions, which now just makes me sad. 15-year-old me might have cared about I wouldn't have cared about Mount Everest, but I would have surrendered to watching about it. And the Moscow Circus, perhaps. And it's with Brent Musburger and Phyllis George. Then there's a NASCAR thing. There's tennis. Okay, look, here are our options. 4 o'clock. Tennis. Bjorn Borg and Sue Barker face Ilya Natasi and Martina Navratilova in the World International Tennis Classics mixed doubles. So, again, it's a good match if you're into tennis. My mom liked tennis. Or you can watch Abbott and Costello, Wall Street Week with Louis Ruckhiser, Portrait of Jamie, I don't know what that is, or Jerry Farwell. Like, those are terrible options. Okay, we're going to just keep going until I can find something I can actually be happy about. 15-year-old me was very mercurial. I had a lot of feelings back then. So, I don't mean to sound so dramatic. I am going to look for something that 15-year-old me would have been satisfied by or with. Hold on. Let me look and find it. But before we get to that, because it is Sunday night was 60 Minutes in our house. And even though I was not one to watch 60 Minutes, my parents always did. And I love my parents. And so I always have to pay tribute to their devotion to 60 Minutes. So, and the world of Disney. And Nancy Drew. So, back then, they alternated between Nancy Drew and Hardy Boys. And Hardy Boys had Sean Cassidy and Parker Stevenson. So I never cared about the Nancy Drew weeks, but I was all in on the Hardy Boy weeks. So this was a Nancy Drew week, so I wouldn't have cared. Okay, we have an episode of Rhoda, which was a good show, right? Fearing he is washed up as an accordionist. Okay, I don't know what this is about, but I'm laughing already. Nick Lobo turns to Rhoda for solace, but Rhoda could use some comforting herself. An unsightly red rash has broken out on her face. The stakes are very high. There's a rash and an accordion involved. The hijinks will be off the charts. Then we have the show Macmillan with Rock Hudson, which I never watched, but 61-year-old me would watch. 15-year-old me wouldn't have cared, but 61-year-old me would be interested. Mac, played by Rock Hudson, returns from a fishing trip to find himself presumed dead. Don't you just hate when that happens? The apparent victim of an assassination plot. And right opposite that is a full one-page ad on the Astro Trimmer, guaranteed to reduce your waist and abdomen 4 to 8 inches in just 3 days, or your money back. It's some sort of binder thing. Oh my God. All right. Well, that's still happening, right? There's still weird ads for things like that. There is an episode of Lawrence Welk. We were not a Lawrence Welk family, but I know several of you have been, and so I just shared that with you. $6 Million Man. Steve, played by Lee Majors, of course, passes himself off as a top OSI neurophysiologist. Oh, I said that word well. Neurophysiologist. To find out why an anonymous concern has offered the real scientist $1 million for 1 week of time. In the meanwhile, I think on Masterpiece Theater or PBS, I don't know if it was called Masterpiece Theater then, Upstairs, Downstairs is happening. We have an episode of Phyllis. Candy and compliments fail to arouse Phyllis's ardor for a new suitor whose saccharine attentions are driving her crazy. Jerry Stiller's in this episode. And then Switch is on, which my mom liked because she liked Robert Wagner. So Robert Wagner and Eddie Albert. It was a good show. Impressionist Jim Bailey's pose as a wealthy baroness is jeopardized by a newspaper account of the woman's marriage. Okay, I just was confused because it's Impressionist Jim Bailey. So Jim is a guy, I'm assuming, is posing as a woman. I guess. I'm sorry, I just got confused a little bit there. Okay, something called Other Broadway. Abby Lane and George Burns perform in this hour of music, taped by the BBC in 1975. I'm not sure we would have watched that. Oh, Masterpiece Theater is a thing because Ross's trial begins in part 10 of Poldark. That would be the first round of Poldark versus the newer one that's now on Amazon Prime. Then at the 10 o'clock hour, we have Del Vecchio, which I just kind of remember, but Not really. An informer's probable murder by drug overdose forces Del Vecchio, played by Judd Hirsch, prior to Taxi, into a partnership with a hard-nosed narcotics cop. I may have watched that. I don't remember it very well. Fawlty Towers is on, of course, with John Cleese, although I wouldn't have watched it back then. That was not the sense of humor for my 15-year-old self. Which now brings us to Monday. Now, the gloriousness of July in 1977 is I am not in school. I am on summer vacation. At 15 years old, I may have been working. I think I would be working maybe at Long John Silver's. Just a bad memory. Just a whole bad memory just washed over me. Like, okay, we're just going to clear that. But I did. I worked at Long John Silver's. But that meant the days were mine. I didn't have homework. I could do whatever I wanted. Oh, the gloriousness of that. So let's see what I would be watching if I were home. There's really nothing on. Let's see, Dinah has Ed McMahon and Richard Thomas. I wouldn't have cared about them. Mike Douglas has Liv Ullmann, Elliot Gould, Sean Connery, and Sir Richard Attenborough. I don't know that I would have been very excited about that. At 5:30, I can watch a rerun of Partridge Family. Always good material. Artie Johnson is a friendly burglar with some nervous hostages. For sure, I could watch that. Or The Munsters. The Munsters were always a good option, for sure. So in this episode of The Munsters, Herman thinks Lily is expecting a visit from the stork. We used to say that instead of that people were pregnant. We were just too delicate to actually say the P word. And then just tons of shows in syndication. My Three Sons, It Takes a Thief, I Love Lucy, The Honeymooners, The Brady Bunch, Odd Couple. Lots of options if you just want to veg out, which I don't think was a term back then, to watching bad television. Oh, here on Monday night before prime time, we have a lot of really very 1970s options. We have The Muppet Show. Great show, right? Twiggy is the guest, and she sings In My Life, joins the Googalala Jubilee Jug Band on a production number of Nobody's Business, and plays a milkmaid in a rendition of a poem by A.A. Milne. Also, a dance by the Muppet Feather Dusters. Kermit the Frog is the host, of course. Then Leo Sayer, do you remember Leo Sayer? Has his own special. He performs You Make Me Feel Like Dancing, When I Need You, Long Tall Glasses, In My Life, and The Show Must Go On. And if neither one of those is your cup of tea, you can watch The Price is Right, Adam 12, Hollywood Squares. Let's see who's in the squares. Darlene Carr, I don't know who that is. George Gobel, Gabriel Kaplan, Mr. Cotter, of course, Hal Linden, Barney Miller. Those are the characters they play, right? I don't know that would be clear if you don't know who I'm talking about. Gabe Kaplan played Mr. Cotter, and Hal Linden played Barney Miller. And then Paul Lynde, of course, in the center square. Rose Marie from The Dick Van Dyke Show. Roddy McDowell, Bernadette Peters, and Jonathan Winters. I always like the Hollywood Squares. You can also watch The Gong Show, Joker's Wild, or an old episode of Dick Van Dyke. And then we get into the Monday night programming, which includes The Jeffersons. Kenny George encourages Lionel to have Jenny sign a prenuptial financial agreement disposing of their joint property in the event of a divorce. That George is always getting into some kind of trouble. Or you can watch Little House on the Prairie. Nellie has most of the lines in the school production of Little Women, but the player to get the most out of the project is a girl who uses the play to bring her reclusive widowed mother back into society. Well, that's interesting. It sort of blends Little Women and Little House on the Prairie. That's interesting. Then Nancy Walker, who I guess had a sitcom back then that I don't recall. Oh, Shields and Yarnell. Oh my God, I just totally hit a flashback to Shields and Yarnell, who I'm sure I have not thought about in decades. They were mimes. And the husband mime I thought was very cute. That's why they were on my radar. So Robert mimes a motorcyclist having problems with his bike, clothing, and girlfriend. The Clinkers have a tough time getting ready for a new day. And Robert and Laureen mime the evolution of man. And Laureen tap dances to drums. That is the epitome of a late 1970s variety show. We were watching Shields and Yarnell mime things. Oh my God. Or you could watch Merv Griffin with Arthur Godfrey, Karen Morrow. All these people I don't know. Or baseball, because sports is always on as well. And if you can hang in there past Shields and Yarnell, you'll get to Maude. Walter's dream that he kissed Arthur puts a damper on the buddy camaraderie of their annual fishing trip. Then there's a Charles Bronson movie on. Something called All Fair. I don't know what that is. Oh, Sonny and Cher. I watched a lot of Sonny and Cher. I liked them. So Muhammad Ali, Marilyn McCoo, and Billy Davis Jr. and Lyle Waggoner are the guests. In comedy sketches, an irate nudist, Lyle, accuses his neighbor, Cher, of peeping. Sonny, as the Italian director, casts his guests in Gone with the Wine, and Cher and Ali meet in the ring for a poetry bout. I for sure would have been watching that. And Sonny and Cher sing You Make Me Feel Like Dancing. There's a lot of that song being sung this week. And Marilyn, Billy, and Cher sing You Don't Have to Be a Star. That was a good song. In the later hours, you can watch Fernwood Tonight, reruns of The Odd Couple. Oh my God. This is an ad for a local news story. It says beauty and how to buy it. And it has a picture of a woman with, like a mud mask on her face, right? Like a face mask. And it says, who are the beautiful women and how did they get that way? Judith Lichtnose and tells. Follow her through the world of health spas and skin salons, of Margot Hemingway and famous glamour photographer Scavullo. Okay, because that's what it takes. Beauty and how to buy it. And this was in the days long before Botox was a thing. Hard to believe we only got through Monday night. We didn't even get into Tuesday yet. So definitely there will be a part 2 to this TV guide episode. Part 2, we weren't just talking about 2-parters, right? So you most definitely will have to tune in to see how the week turns out. Yeah, I'm trying to think what I would be doing in July of 1977. I had met my girlfriends already, so we would be spending a lot of time together, but no one drove. So wherever we went, we needed to get rides places. God bless parents for driving us places, right? So my parents would have driven me places. So we would spend a lot of time at the mall, because what else are you going to do when you're a 15-year-old girl? what else was there to do? You went to the mall, you tried on makeup and clothes, and you looked at things, and you ate snacks. My girlfriends and I were very much into eating. Food was an important part of our expression of life. And you know how some people, that was a happy time for them? You could not pay me enough money to be 15 years old again. No way. The hormones? The hormones, the not knowing who I really was. Who am I going to be when I grow up? What am I going to do with my, no, there's no way I would ever go back to that age again. No, thank you. Not for me. I did it, don't have to do it again. But I do like revisiting with you, because there's something about revisiting the past incarnations of ourselves. We get to send light and love. We get to love ourselves through all these different moments of life that have already happened, but love transcends all time and space. So I'm sending love to 15-year-old me in July of 1977. And if you were incarnated in 1977 in July, I send you light to the younger expression of you as well. So, my dear one, I wish you the sweetest of dreams. I wish you blessings of love. We'll talk again soon, and I promise to come back with part 2 of this issue of TV Guide. Stay tuned. And we'll talk again soon. Thank you.